Right now, we want to turn to the Doomsday couple, Chad and Lori Daybell. They're going to be back to court next week for a hearing out in Idaho. The couple faces various charges, of course, in relation to the deaths of two of Lori's children, JJ and Tylee, and Chad's first wife, Tammy Daybell. Their trial scheduled to begin at this point in January in Boise, Idaho. It has been moved out of Rexburg. Joining us now is the person that knows all about this case more than anybody else, Court TV legal correspondent Chanley Pater. Good morning to you, Chanley. This is the first time that Chad and Lori will be face-to-face in quite some time.
That's right. Since March of 2020, Ted, I know you will remember this moment when Lori was extradited from Hawaii. Her children still missing. She was brought back to Rexburg, Idaho. She enters the courtroom then in her jail jumpsuit there, and you see her husband, Chad Daybell, sitting in the gallery. That was the last time they were together in person inside a courtroom. Obviously before murder charges, before everything that's happened over the last 2 years. So that's why this hearing coming up on Tuesday is so important, because they're both expected to be there in person for this motions hearing. There is an order to transport Lori from the Women's Center in Rexburg, Madison County, Idaho, to St. Anthony in Fremont County, Idaho. Chad Daybell is being held in Fremont County already. So this hearing next Tuesday, August 16th, will be taking place in front of the same judge, Judge Boyce, for pending motions. And again, both of them will be there. And this is only about 5 months, Ted, before their joint death penalty trial. They're facing multiple conspiracy to commit first-degree murder and first-degree murder counts for Lori's children and Tammy, Chad Daybell's former wife.
Oh, there's a lot of pending motions out there. Do we know exactly what's going to be dealt with in this hearing?
We are expecting the judge to take up several of those pending outstanding motions, both from the prosecution and from Lori's defense team. Let's look at what this prosecution motion is about. It's this consumptive DNA testing motion. This is something the prosecution has been wanting to take place for quite a while. They are asking the judge to allow them to DNA test certain items. Of course, we just see in the court file Chad Daybell's defense objecting to this. The document hasn't posted yet online, but we can see that it's been filed with an affidavit. But the prosecution fighting for this DNA testing. The clincher, though, Ted, is that it would consume the entire sample. So let's take a look, because what they want tested will really send chills down your spine. They want to test some of the hairs on the duct tape inside the body bag used to transport the remains of little JJ Vallow. They also want to test the ridge detail or fingerprints on the adhesive side of some of the tape associated with JJ's body. There's small dark spots on the handles of a shovel and a pickaxe that was recovered from a garage or barn on Chad Daybell's property. Also swabs of the duct tape area, by the way, for DNA and touch DNA evidence, and from the fingernails of JJ's right hand that were obtained during that autopsy. So we expect this to be taken up on Tuesday, both sides to argue on whether or not the judge will allow this with their experts from both sides. Now, there's also some pending motions for Lori Vallow Daybell's defense. Remember, her trial was on hold for about a year because of her incompetency. So now that it's back on track, her defense team trying to pick apart that grand jury indictment that indicted her for murder that now she is facing the death penalty for. So there are about 3 outstanding motions still for her case, including the motion to remand that indictment for further proceedings, a motion to remand it for probable cause as to the aggravating factors against her for the death penalty. And they want to incorporate these federal and state grounds and support future motions in general. So they're really picking apart they say the direct and certain language as is required for an indictment isn't there for her indictment, and some of the counts charge more than one crime, which isn't proper. So we'll see if the judge takes that up and they are able to somehow delay this trial even further, which is another issue. Like I just said, we're only a few months away from their trial. Could this delay it even further?
Yeah, let's bring in Michael Cardozo and Melissa Redmond to the conversation. Michael, this is such a convoluted case. The consumptive DNA test, there's only enough for one test.
Right.
Should be able to be worked out, right? You get an independent expert and have a defense person there to watch it. Does that make sense? That right now, you know,
it makes perfect sense, and you're right. I mean, when you have that little of DNA, the judge is going to have to make a decision. All right, you guys want to analyze this. The prosecution, the government's not going to want the defense to do it, have their expert do it, because they're going to say, well, he or she is too biased to do this, so we don't want that. Conversely, the defense is going to say, well, we ditto your argument that yours is biased. The judge will step in and come to some reasonable conclusion and either get someone outside or pick a third DNA expert to come in and sit with them and do the test. I would imagine they're going to videotape them, audio. They're going to do everything to memorialize this. I mean, if you remember, O.J. Simpson made DNA very famous. That's where all this started.
Very boring, too. It really brought down that trial. Melissa, if I'm Lori's attorneys, I want that, right? Because her fingerprints aren't going to be on the inside of that duct tape, and it's likely going to help her. Chad, maybe not.
Chad, maybe not. So I'm not sure. If I'm Laura, there's more to argue if you don't have the answer, right? So I can always argue the absence of evidence if it doesn't exist. The testing kind of will show, or maybe we don't know whether it will be conclusive. Who touched the duct tape, whose DNA is on it, or at least the state will be able to argue that it was tested. It will take away the argument that there was an incomplete investigation. There's evidence that exists that wasn't tested. It kind of removes all of those arguments. And in this case, where the state lab has already said we won't do the testing ourselves, it'll be conducted by another lab, an independent lab. The defense will have an opportunity to observe, to videotape. I don't see why the judge would not order the consumptive testing in this case, but it does remove that argument from the defense.
Chanley, let's be honest. I mean, this is such a convoluted case in that there's a guy named Alex Cox in the mix here, and I would think both sides would benefit if it's old Alex, who's been basically called the family hitman. If it's his print, boom.
Right, he is an alleged co-conspirator. He's deceased now. He couldn't be charged and indicted, of course, but you're correct. I mean, that he is, from prosecution filings, the one who actually mostly conducted these murders, correct? And another issue, really, from the defense, like I said, this is the second time the prosecution has renewed this motion. Previously, the defense, when they objected, they were okay if there was enough of the sample left that they could have it independently tested. So they're going to be hammering that out on Tuesday. Also, some of these items, like the shovel or the pickaxe, were found on Chad Daybell's property. There were a lot of people that lived there, right? So if these are tested, it could even have Tammy, one of the victims' DNA on it. It could have maybe one of the children's DNA on it, or Chad's. He lived there, right? So he could explain that away as well. So it will be interesting as this all unfolds, Ted.